In episode 6, the Bebop is down. Jet Black has to hire a mechanic, and he's pretty pissed off because when she tells him what's wrong with it, he knows it's going to cost a fortune. So he tells her to fix it, kind of. He doesn't want a new flux capacitor. He wants to go find a refurbished one because it'll be cheaper. He ends up going to Spike's room and saying, we're going to be grounded for a few hours, and this repair is going to cost us a lot of money, so why don't you go get a bounty? Jet Black ended up getting a lead from a hacker named Radical Ed, but this lead is new info on an old bounty. It's a guru/cult leader named Sai Baba, and he must have been the biggest In Vogue fan in the world because the motto that he went with was, free your mind, the rest will follow. The guy's going by a new cover name, Dr. Alondis. But Spike thinks it's a rabbit hole to nowhere, a complete pipe dream. And Jet Black reminds him that what it is a lead with a $90 million price tag. So Jet Black sends him the info and tells him to go check it out. As he's heading through the cabin to make his way out to go find that part, he sees Faye Valentine opening up this new fancy gun. And it's called a railgun, but a lot of people think it's a total scam, which is really a buzzkill to Faye, who's pretty excited about it. He tells Faye, I'm heading out to grab a part, but while I'm gone, make sure the mechanic isn't, screwing around all my time. He then heads out, and Spike follows suit later, and when he sees the railgun, he says the same thing Jet Black did. Those things are a total scam. So a little while after the two guys leave, Faye heads down and check on the mechanic, but the mechanic is smoking hot. She's like a hot mechanic. Totally dispels the myth that mechanics can't be hot, which is a real myth. Unfortunately, though, she also thinks the railgun is a total scam, but she does find Faye Valentine to be quite the catch. And after she's done fixing the Bebop, they get it on. She even gives Faye her first orgasm. At least she thinks. She tells the mechanic that she woke up from a pretty rough cryo nap. And she's gone 2 years without knowing who she is, what she did in previous life. It's been rough, but the mechanic tells her that probably the roughest part is the fact that she still went 2 years without having an orgasm. So while those two were getting to know each other, Spike went and tracked down that lead. He walks into the storefront where Dr. Lannis is posted up, and he's got a bunch of old TVs hooked up to the walls. When you walk in, one of the TVs pops on and a woman greets you, but it's as if she can see you, and she's talking to you face to face. She tells Spike that Dr. Lannis wants to see her, but that TV turns off, and another one turns on with her face again, and it kind of lures you in. All the while, she's giving you a lot of cult speak. Eventually, it leads to a separate room. When the woman on the TV tells him to have a seat and put goggles over his eyes, he tells the woman, I'm just here to see Dr. Landis. And she tells him that Dr. Landis wants to meet him too, but first, a brief orientation is necessary. So Spike puts the goggles on and finds out that this is going to be a 90-minute orientation. So he says, screw that, and takes them off. And Spike takes a more direct approach. He sees another door and decides to kick it in, but that door goes to the alley. And when he heads back to the front of the store, right before he goes in, he hears a voice say, fearless. And when he turns around, there's Julia. She tells him that she tracked him down with Anna's help. And she came there to warn him that Vicious and an entire army is coming there today to get him. He says to her, then come with me. But she says, I didn't come here to be with you. I came to save you. He says, I've already lost you once. I'm not losing you again. But she says, they'll be here any minute. You gotta run. He looks at her and says, I tried for 3 years to let you go, and I can't. But then they hear a gunshot, and Julia drops, because she was just shot in the head by Vicious and his goons. But then you find out the whole thing was a dream. Spike ends up taking off the goggles, seeing the same side door, kicking the same side door in, and that's when you realize all of this is a dream. He's just in a continuous time loop. Every time he goes to the front, there's Julia waiting for him. Now, in the real world, the chair that he's in has literally trapped him to the chair. It injects him with something that looks like a worm, travels to his brain, and it starts going to work. In the time loop, though, he's still talking to Julia. The second time, though, he knows they're coming, so he tries to grab Julia, have her get on a motorcycle, head out of there. And she reiterates, you need to let me go. She reluctantly ends up getting on the bike. They head to a hotel room, and he tells Julia what he's currently up to. And she asks the same question Anna asked. Does your partner know what you used to be? He tells Julia, I waited for you that night, but you never came. I was told you chose somebody else. She tells him that she was scared, and he says, I could have kept us safe. But she says, you couldn't. Not then and not now. She once again says, you have to let me go. You have to leave me. It's the only way that you'll be safe. But he once again tells her that he's not losing her again. No one's ever made him feel the way that she does. Vicious and his goons then burst through the hotel door, kill Julia, and before they can kill Spike, he wakes up again. But that's what's going on in Spike's mind. Back in the real world, Jet Black was trying to get a hold of Spike, and Spike wasn't picking up because he was busy in this time loop. So when Jet Black headed over to Dr. Lannis' place, what he found was all the TVs smashed. When he went to the back room where Spike was located, he sees Spike. He tries to unhook him, but then all of a sudden a voice from the side says, "Don't do that. If you take off the goggles, you're going to fry his brain." Jet Black asks, "What are you doing to him?" And the guy says, "I'm attempting to save him." Jet Black says, "Are you Landis or Sai-Ba?" And the guy says, "No. Radical Ed sent me an alert. And Sai-Ba, there's a check you're never going to cash. There is no Sai-Ba. There never was. That was a cover story that we cooked up for this AI that went psychotic. I shut it down immediately, but not before thousands of test subjects were killed." Jet Black asks what's going on with Spike, and he lets him know that Spike is in a VR time loop, and the AI is trying to capture his subconsciousness. And when Jet Black burst in, he was trying to rewire the system. So this guy continues to go to work, but as he's trying to rewire the system, on the goggles, there's a percentage that keeps going up. And he lets Jet Black know that that's the AI trying to get Spike to give up his emotional tether. Once he does, he's cooked. And that is the reason why Julia keeps saying, "You have to let me go," but Spike is fighting back. This guy works and works, but then all of a sudden, the wires just kind of blow up. He tells Jet Black, "We can't shut it down from here. You're going to have to cut the power from the mainframe." And the mainframe is in Earth. It's not exactly a quick journey, so Jet Black flies out of that place and heads back to the Bebop. And that's where he sees both Faye Valentine and the mechanic having pillow talk, and he doesn't even have time to process it because he says, "Spike's in trouble, we gotta go." He throws the mechanic the part they need and tells them wheels are up in 2 minutes. And that's not nearly enough time for the mechanic to properly put this thing in. But Jet Black tells her, "You gotta make it work." So as they head off to Earth, Julia in the time loop is getting meaner and meaner. As Vicious and his goons are trying to kill them both, she tells Spike, "When I said I didn't feel safe, I wasn't talking about Vicious. I was talking about you. You just love taking your best friend's girl, and now you're going to get me killed. I could never love a monster like you." So the AI is going for a different kind of approach. The Bebop, however, arrives on Earth, and Earth has clearly seen better days, but so has the Bebop. It's a crash landing. Jet Black, Spike, the mechanic, rush into the mainframe room, and Jet Black is trying to get in, but it's bulletproof glass. It's tough. And that's when the mechanic gives Faye Valentine a bobby pin. And that's a bobby pin that she can use with the railgun. And it works. She fires it, and it destroys the mainframe, saving Spike in the process with 1% to go before the AI took over. On Earth, Jet Black, Faye, and the mechanic celebrate, but they have to get back because they have to pick Spike up. And he is pretty hungover from this AI experience. He asks Jet Black, "Did we find Landis?" And Jet Black says, "Oh, we found him, but not in a way that gets us paid." Jet Black throws down a plaque from the mainframe, and it says, "Life Observing Neural Developmental Emotional System." You take the first letter from each of those words, you get Landis. The AI must have restarted itself and created the Dr. Landis identity to lure people in. Jet Black tells Spike, "I'm glad you're okay," and Spike gets up, but he asks him, "Hey, when you were wearing those goggle things, what did you see in there anyway?" And Spike just says, "I don't remember," which is total horse hockey. Back downstairs, the mechanic gets dressed and is saying goodbye to Faye. Faye asks her, "Can I call you sometime?" And she says, "Yeah, but first you have to figure out who the real you is." Right before the mechanic leaves, Faye gives her the railgun, saying, "It's a terrible gun for a bounty hunter anyway. Just take it as something to remember me by." And the mechanic takes it, but tells her she's yours whenever you want it back. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. Once again, thank you for checking out this recap.